The stars were meant to bring peace. To shimmer like ancient lullabies across the void. But tonight, they flickered like dying embers, and Eni could not look at them without flinching. She stood barefoot on the observation plate of her vessel, a crescent-winged skiff made for peace delegations and ceremonial journeys, not what she had made it do, flee. The metal beneath her feet pulsed faintly with the lifeblood of her people's technology. Beneath the hull, gravitational folds buckled against the laws of physics to carry her faster than any imperial vessel had dared. But she was not fast enough. She wasn't supposed to be here. Not in this space. Not near this star. And certainly not approaching that world. Earth. In her language, it was unspoken, classified, quarantined, buried beneath eons of cultural erasure. Her tutors had dismissed the blue-green world as a myth told to frighten children. A death world, they had called it. Brutal and untamable. A place where war was carved into biology. And yet, it was her only hope. Behind her, the ship's artificial intelligence hummed softly, running diagnostics. She did not give it commands, it had known the moment she touched its crystal helm that this journey could only end in madness or miracle. 1 hour until arrival in Sol 3 system, the voice intoned gently. Will you initiate concealment protocols? Eni didn't answer at first. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the transparent dome. Her skin, usually a soft opaline silver, had dulled into gray-blue shadows. Her long braid coiled down one shoulder, fastened with threads of memory ribbon, each knot a story of her line, her people, her planet. Saratha. Once, the Empire had spanned 8 systems. Known for art, for light, for symphonies performed between moons. They had never even built warships. They hadn't needed to. Until now. Until the Foul came with their devouring dreadships, massive, mindless automatons bent on rewriting planets into raw materials. The outer colonies fell within cycles. Her brother's diplomatic fleet was lost. Her mother, the matron regent, poisoned at the last state meal before the capital moon was quarantined. Eni had watched the empire crumble in silence. She hadn't wept. Not yet. There was no time for mourning when there was a chance, even a fool's chance, of survival. Initiate concealment, she whispered. Confirmed. From orbit, her ship shimmered, fractured, then bent out of sight. The panels refracted starlight like smoke on still water. To the human eye, nothing would pass overhead but dust and static. She studied Earth now in earnest. It spun beneath her like a child's marble, oceans and storms dancing across its skin. She could feel its gravity curling fingers toward her already, inviting and unfamiliar. Life signs consistent with advanced civilization, the AI offered. Electromagnetic emissions detected across all known communication bands. Active satellite grid. High probability of space-capable infrastructure. Any military response to our presence? No, our trajectory is beneath current defense threshold. Good. Eni exhaled slowly and closed her eyes. The landing was quiet. The lunar colony known as LIS-3 had been partially decommissioned a decade prior. Now, it operated as an artist collective, scarcely patrolled, powered by decentralized solar webs and inhabited by less than 200 humans. A perfect shadow to slip into. She guided her ship beneath a crescent ridge of rock and debris and set it to power down. The AI would keep the vessel dormant. Eni would be alone. She descended in silence, her feet finally touching human ground. The dust clung to her like breath, clinging to the folds of her woven travel cloak. Everything was still. Muted. Hollow. Until she heard music. Or something like it. Not artificial, no, not the eerie perfection of synthesized tones. This was raw. Fractured. Something straining for harmony and missing by inches. She followed it. Down a corridor once meant for oxygen tanks and climate control units. Through bulkheads etched with forgotten warnings and scrawled graffiti. The lights flickered. Vines had cracked tiles underfoot. And then, color. A chamber. A dome half collapsed. And there, beneath its shattered roof, stood a man with paint on his hands. He was tall, though not by her people's standards. His skin bore the kiss of solar burns, and his hair fell in messy waves tied back with cloth. The back of his shirt was stained from leaning against walls still wet with paint. He didn't see her at first. He was lost in the act, sweeping a brush across a mural so vivid it pulled the air from her lungs. A swirl of colors, like galaxies in bloom. He didn't turn until she stepped too close. His reaction was pure instinct. He dropped the brush, hands raised halfway in startled defense. Who? He blinked. Then stared. Eni didn't speak right away. She raised her hands, palms open, a gesture of peace. I am not here to harm you, she said. His eyebrows furrowed. That's good. He looked past her. How did you get in here? My ship is hidden. I landed hours ago. I seek shelter. His eyes scanned her outfit, her posture, her face. You're not from around here, are you? A pause. Then, he laughed softly. Damn. You're not even trying to lie. I do not wish to, she said. He tilted his head. So what, you're alien royalty or something? Yes. Wait, seriously? Eni nodded. He sat down. Just like that. Like his brain had decided not to fight this. I'm Jalen, he said, brushing dust off a crate and offering her a place beside him. You picked a weird place to crash. I picked a quiet place, she replied. And, I saw your work. His eyes lit faintly. The mural. The feeling behind it. The longing. He looked away. Yeah. That's a long story. I have time, she said. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stood, took a small kettle, and poured water from a solar purifier into a battered pot. You want tea? He asked. I've never had it. You're in for something. He offered her a chipped cup. She accepted it with both hands. The warmth surprised her. And the taste, sharp, dark, bittersweet, felt like memories she hadn't lived. They drank in silence. Then Jalen said, So, what brings a space princess to the edge of the solar system? Desperation, she said. He didn't laugh. Didn't smirk. He nodded slowly, as though he understood. And hope, she added. Perhaps even something foolish. Something impossible. That's usually where all the good things start, he said. Eni looked at him. Really looked. His eyes weren't bright. They were shadowed, ringed with sleeplessness, pain. But there was warmth in them. And when he smiled, not the practiced kind, but the real one, she felt something in her chest stir. You're kind, she said. He raised a brow. You've known me 10 minutes. Kindness doesn't always need time, she said. They sat for hours, exchanging nothing but small words, glances, stories of brokenness and repair. He told her of a girl he had loved once. Of how she had left for a mission to Europa and never come back. Of how he stopped painting for 2 years. Of how he came here to forget. Eni told him of the gardens her people used to sing into bloom. Of the glass towers that melted in the first foul strike. Of the way her mother's body had been turned to crystal after the poison took her. Jalen didn't touch her. Didn't lean in. But he stayed. And that was more than most had done for Eni. When sleep found them, they curled on opposite sides of the chamber floor. The mural above them watched over them both. And Eni, for the first time since she fled her dying world, whispered softly to the stars. Let this be the first ripple. Not of war. but of something softer. Something human. The thing about grief is, it gets quieter, but never truly leaves. Jalen Michael had learned that truth in the long, brittle days after Cora disappeared into Europa's ice storms. He learned it in the way the silence of a lunar dome could fold itself around your ribs like a second set of bones. He learned it in how art could stop meaning anything, then one day, start meaning everything again. He hadn't expected to paint again. Hadn't expected to care. Certainly hadn't expected a silver-skinned alien princess to walk barefoot into his dome, ask for sanctuary, and sip bitter tea like it might fix her broken world. But here they were. He woke to soft breaths. Light. Eni was curled across from him, not on the ragged mat he'd offered, but simply folded into herself on the cold dome floor. Even asleep, she held a posture of grace that artists would bleed for. Her limbs bent like branches in slow wind. The tips of her hair shimmered faintly, catching the filtered lunar sun. Her skin had shifted color again, last night it was pale, near translucent. Now, it glowed faintly with hues of sunrise gold and frost blue. Was it emotion? Temperature? Something else entirely? He didn't ask yet. Instead, Jalen stood and moved quietly to the small kitchen alcove at the dome's edge, near the solar heater coil. The water took a moment to warm, so he leaned against the cracked counter, staring at the mural they'd both fallen asleep beneath. He still wasn't sure why he'd let her stay. "You're kind," she'd said. Maybe once. Maybe once, before Cora's last message said don't wait up, before the storms, before the silence. The kettle clicked. He poured tea. 2 cups this time. When he turned, Eni was sitting up, arms wrapped around her knees. Her eyes were open, but distant. He walked over, crouched beside her, and offered the cup. "Didn't know what blend you'd like," he said softly. Figured the bitter stuff again was safe. She took it with both hands, bowed slightly. "It was warm," she said, after tasting it. "That is enough." They sat in silence. Then, finally. "You did not ask who I am," she said. "I figured you'd tell me when you were ready." Eni turned to look at him fully. Her eyes weren't like human eyes. They held too much depth. Too much color. Like someone had spilled molten crystal in her gaze and let it settle. "On my world," she said slowly, "names are more than labels. They are offerings. Bonds. When we give them, it means we trust the other not to break the shape of who we are." Jalen swallowed. "Do you trust me?" A pause. Then. "I think I want to." And that was more honest than anything he'd heard in years. He nodded. "You don't have to rush. I'm not going anywhere." The next few days passed in a rhythm Jalen hadn't expected. Eni didn't demand anything. Didn't pry or preach or ask for technology, political favors, or resources. She simply was. In the mornings, she sat in the dome's sunlit alcove, her hands tracing the rim of the cracked pottery he used for mixing paints. In the afternoons, she wandered through the abandoned corridors of Lis 3, watching vines crawl up rusted bulkheads and listening to archived sound logs left by human workers long gone. Sometimes she joined him as he painted. Not to instruct or comment. Just to observe. To witness. It was the way she watched that unsettled him. Like she saw the layers underneath the mural, the scars, the need. The fact that some days he painted not to say something beautiful, but to survive another day. On the 4th day, she brought him a gift. A shard of crystal, the size of his palm, humming softly with internal light. "A memory stone," she said. "From my world." Jalen turned it over in his hands. It was warm. "How does it work?" "You press it to your skin. Your thoughts shape it. It records impressions. Feelings. Not words. Not pictures. Just presence. Like a journal. Like a piece of you. He didn't know what to say. So he didn't say anything. That night, they painted together. He hadn't meant to. He'd been working on a small corner, trying to texture a layer of reds into something storm-like. Eni had been standing nearby, arms crossed behind her back. "May I try?" she asked. He blinked. "You want to paint?" "I wish to understand." He handed her the brush. Her grip was awkward at first. Her species didn't use tools the way humans did, he realized. Their hands were longer, more flexible. But she adapted quickly, too quickly. Like muscle memory made new in minutes. And the stroke she made, God! It shimmered. She dragged the pigment through the red in a slow curve, and it sparkled like rain against firelight. He didn't know how. Didn't understand how oils and dust could do that. "That's not possible," he whispered. Eni looked at him. "Perhaps your paints remember wonder better than you do." And she smiled. He couldn't look away. "Why did you really come here?" he asked later, as they sat cross-legged beside the mural. Eni didn't answer immediately. She held the memory stone in her lap, tracing its edges. "My people," she said, "do not understand Earth. We were told to fear it. To bury it. Ancient war records say your species was too volatile to contact." Jalen nodded. "Yeah. Sounds about right. But," she said, "those records are old. Incomplete. And the empire is falling. The Fal come. They erase. They consume. Our outer moons are ash." He swallowed. "I read about them. Your kind doesn't fight, do you?" "No," she said quietly. "We create. We believe violence begets only more. And so, what, you came here alone? To ask for help?" "Not help," she said. She looked at him then, full and unguarded. "I came to see if love was real." He froze. "You mean romantic love?" "I mean, the thing that makes someone stay when they could run. The thing that sees beyond species, beyond need. Beyond what is given and expected." He stared at her. She wasn't speaking poetically. Not metaphorically. She was speaking about him. "Eni," he whispered, and it felt right to use her name, finally. She looked at him. "Why me?" "Because you didn't flinch," she said. "Because when I said I had nothing, you still made tea. Because your art bleeds." He looked down. Tried to swallow the ache in his throat. "I'm not a hero," he said. "I can't save your world." "I know," she said. And that was the moment something cracked open between them. Because she knew. And she still stayed. Days passed. They fell into quiet rituals, shared meals, whispered stories before sleep. Jalen found himself leaning toward her more. Touching her fingers. Brushing paint from her cheek. And she let him. When he dreamed, she entered them, sometimes as starlight. Sometimes as breath. When she touched the memory stone to his chest one night, she whispered, "Now I carry a piece of you." And he knew he was falling. Falling toward something vast and terrifying. Not because she was alien. But because she was real. And real things always had the power to break. It wasn't perfect. There were moments of fear. Of questions he didn't ask. Once, Eni cried in her sleep. Soft sounds, like glass cracking underwater. He didn't wake her. Just lay beside her, eyes wide, memorizing the sound of someone who had lost too much and still kept going. Another time, a ship passed overhead. Human. Not military, but enough to make Eni vanish into the tunnels for 2 hours. She returned shaken, quiet. He didn't press. He only reached for her hand, and she held it, even while trembling. On the 10th day, she stood beside the mural and said, "They will find me soon. Jalen's chest tightened. Your people. No, she said. The ones who wish to stop me from asking. There are those who would rather our kind die with pride than kneel to a species they don't understand. He stared at her. And what about you? Eni stepped closer. I would kneel, she said, if it meant holding on to what matters. Then she kissed him. Soft. Slow. Not because it was expected. Not because it was owed. But because something had bloomed. Fragile, but undeniable. His hand slid into her hair, her name a breath against her lips. And the mural watched. The stars watched. And the memory stone glowed like it knew. Something was beginning. Space was not silent. Not truly. Sealer Ven knew this better than most. As his vessel slipped into Sol 3's exosphere, he could hear the echoing thrum of radiation across hull plating, the whisper of electromagnetic songs, the morning resonance of the stars themselves. But beneath it all, silence of another kind. The silence of betrayal. Of abandonment. Eni had left him. He had sworn never to let her walk alone. And yet she had slipped away under the veil of night like a shadow, abandoning the crumbling palaces of Saratha, leaving behind a world on the edge of ruin, and him. Sealer's ship was smaller than hers. Built for discretion. Pursuit. And it had not been hard to trace her. She had left a signature, faint, yes, but deliberately so. Like she wanted to be found, just not by those who would stop her. But he was different. Wasn't he? You are the one constant in my orbit, she had once told him when they were children, watching suns bloom over the spires of the glass capital. But stars lie, sometimes. He hovered above the lunar colony, Lys 3, they called it. Abandoned in maps, ignored by most. Humans had a strange relationship with beauty, they built it, bled for it, and then forgot it. His ship shimmered into cloak, and he descended. The outer edges of Lys 3 smelled of rust and something sweet, decaying. Sealer stepped through broken corridors. Dust rose with every footfall, and still he moved with a kind of quiet grace born from a lifetime of service. His cloak, woven with ancestral memory threads, shifted color as he walked, blending with the shadows. It took him less than an hour to find her. Not by tech. Not by signal. By feeling. His kind could find one another by pulse, by breath, by the threads that connected those who had shared years, pain, trust. Eni's pulse was a beacon. Familiar. Raw. He reached the fractured dome and stepped silently through its open arch. What he saw stopped him cold. Eni. Laughing. Standing before a massive wall covered in human pigment. Swirling, radiant, uncontrolled. And with her, him. The human. Sealer's breath caught in his throat. Jalen Michael. The exile painter. The lost heart. The stranger she had dared to trust. They didn't notice him at first. They were too close. Too comfortable. Eni leaned against Jalen, hands lightly brushing his as they painted the same streak of sky. Their bodies moved together, rhythm matched like dance partners who had never needed rehearsal. The brush dipped, lifted, turned. Their fingers touched. Her laugh bloomed soft and unguarded. Sealer felt something rupture in his chest. He stepped forward, not caring about stealth anymore. Eni. She froze. Jalen turned first, his eyes narrowing, immediately defensive. Instinctive. But Eni, she turned slowly, like she'd known this moment would come. Sealer, she said quietly. He stared at her. She was thinner. Her posture still proud, but the lines in her shoulders had shifted. She was not afraid. Not even ashamed. You shouldn't be here, he said. She stepped forward. I knew you would come. Then why didn't you call me? His voice cracked, not loud, not angry. Just, broken. Eni's expression softened. Because you would have stopped me. Of course I would have stopped you. He stepped closer. You left everything. The Empire. Our people. Me. And for what? To paint walls with a human exile? Jalen tensed but didn't speak. He stood beside her, silent, eyes locked on Sealer with steady fire. I didn't come to destroy, she said. I came to find something we have forgotten. Something your council believes extinct. Hope, Sealer spat. Love. You think this, he gestured between her and Jalen, is a solution to genocide? It is a beginning, she said. He's not one of us, Sealer said, voice low. He doesn't understand what you carry. What you are. He will never understand you the way I. He cut himself off. Too late. Eni's gaze held him now. And so did Jalen's. A silence stretched between the three of them, heavy, fragile. Then she asked, voice barely audible, how long? Sealer closed his eyes. He could lie. Pretend this wasn't the moment everything cracked open. But he didn't. Since you held my hand at the initiation trials, he said. Since you whispered my name when they crowned your brother. Since you cried when he died, and I held you beneath the mirror trees. Eni blinked. Jalen looked down. You never said anything, she said. Because it wasn't mine to say, Sealer whispered. You were always meant to belong to them. To the stars. To diplomacy. To the future. I'm not an heir anymore, she said. But you're still you, he said. And I would have followed you to the edge of creation if you had just asked. Eni stepped closer. She reached out, touched his arm. And in that touch, Sealer felt the terrible, beautiful truth. She loved him. But not the way he had hoped. Not the way she looked at Jalen. They sat beneath the mural, all three. The night pressed in around them, stars peeking through fractured glass. Silence fell not as absence, but as choice. We can't win with weapons, Eni said. Then how? Sealer asked bitterly. She looked at Jalen. With stories, she said. Jalen glanced between them, hesitant, then nodded. What we remember is what we preserve, he said. If we can make them feel, if we can show them what we're about to lose, it might not stop the foul. But it could unite what's left. Enough to matter. Sealer stared at the wall. The colors. The brushstrokes. They had captured Serati spires in golden light. Earth storms in cobalt. Eni's eyes in glints of starlight. And in the center, two figures holding hands, faceless, timeless. He had no place on that wall. And that hurt more than any blade. What will you do? Eni asked gently. He stood, his breath unsteady. Return, he said. Warn the council. Delay those who would come after you. Buy you time. Eni rose, took both his hands. Thank you, she whispered. And Sealer, who had loved her in silence through centuries of duty, smiled with wet eyes and said, if this is what peace looks like, then I'll fight for it, even if it never touches me. He turned and walked into the night. And for the first time, didn't look back. After he left, Eni lay beside Jalen beneath the mural. He held her hand, but said nothing. He didn't ask if she had loved Sealer too. He didn't ask if she might still. Because love, as he had come to learn, wasn't about possession or proof. It was about presence. And she was here. With him. That was enough. For now. Helena Rowe had stopped believing in fairy tales the day her wife left Mars without saying goodbye. Not with a fight. Not even with an argument. Just a door closed. A shuttle launched. And silence. Since then, Helena learned to live in systems. Schedules. Facts. The emotional world of others was like a star map she no longer trusted, burning with light from distances too vast to reach in time. So when the Planetary Council summoned her to a private meeting 3 minutes before sunrise, classified matter, unregistered off-world entity, Sol, 3 space, lunarless, 3, she didn't ask questions. She suited up. She boarded the shuttle. And she didn't look back. The transport slid across the upper thermosphere like a ghost, silent and cold. Lys, 3 loomed below, half forgotten, half abandoned. Once a haven for lunar artists, later converted to a supply depot, and now, who knew? The automated briefing told her the visitor was likely alone. No record of aggressive actions. No known threat signature. But it was the word Sarati envoy that made her pulse stumble. Helena had studied them once. The Sarati. Elegant, elusive, officially non-contactable. Their empire was famous for silence. For treaties written in song. For worlds that vanished behind veils of light. Now one of them was here. Why? And more importantly, why now? The shuttle touched down softly on a dust-choked platform. She stepped out into the pale glow of artificial morning, her boots crunching over forgotten gravel. It didn't take long to find her. A signature had been traced to a lower dome, once used as a studio, now dormant in the system's registry. As Helena approached, her steps slowed. Voices. Not military code. Not diplomatic formulae. Conversation. She paused outside the arch and watched. Inside, a mural spread across a fractured dome like a dream unraveling. Painted in impossible hues. Golds and blues that shimmered without source. And there, her. Tall. Strange. Skin gleaming with light like the inside of seashells. And beside her, a human man, younger than Helena, but with the same kind of old hurt in his eyes. They didn't notice her yet. They were laughing softly. And they were holding hands. Helena's mouth went dry. You must be the diplomat, the woman, Eni, said softly, as Helena stepped inside. Not surprised. Not startled. Helena Rowe, she replied, tapping the clearance badge on her suit. The man beside Eni straightened, offering a cautious nod. Jalen Michael. Helena's gaze lingered on their joined hands. She turned to Eni. You know you're not authorized to be here. Neither were your first explorers, Eni said gently. Helena almost smiled. Almost. The council is worried, she said. You violated galactic contact protocols. Came to our system without treaty or permission. People are calling it a potential incursion. I came alone, Eni said. That's not the issue. Then what is? You asked for love. Eni's expression didn't shift. Helena stepped closer. That message reached 6 major governments in less than 20 minutes. Our communications network scrambled trying to decode it. We thought it was a trap. Or a joke. Until we translated it fully. She pulled out her tablet. We are the Sarati. Our worlds burn. We ask not for soldiers. We ask not for conquest. We ask for one among you who still believes love is a reason to act. And what did your leaders say? Eni asked. Helena hesitated. Jalen spoke for her. They think you're dangerous, don't they? No, Helena said. They think you're a symbol. And symbols are harder to control than weapons. She looked at Eni directly now. What do you want from us? Eni's voice was quiet. I want to show you what we're losing. Helena blinked. I want you to see us. Not just through threat reports or tech scans. Through feeling. Through connection. She gestured to the mural. I want to invite you to our world. Helena looked at the painting. In the swirl of alien color, she saw cities that didn't exist on any Earth map. Oceans floating in the sky. Forests that sang with light. And in the center, 2 figures holding hands, one human, one Sarah T, faceless but familiar. She swallowed. They talked for hours. Helena listened more than she spoke. About the foul. About the fall of outer moons. About Eni's broken dynasty and her people's refusal to call for war. What we need isn't fire, Eni said. We need witnesses. We need those who still remember that compassion is not weakness. You really believe art can save your world? Helena asked. Eni looked at Jalen. It saved me. Helena stared at the ground. She remembered a time, years ago, when she and Naomi had danced to old jazz on a Mars base roof, wine warm in their veins, hands twined like vines. You think you're the only one who's lost something, Helena said softly. Eni nodded, solemn. I know we are not. That's why we need each other. The next day, Helena stood alone at the edge of the dome. Outside, the shuttle waited. The comlink buzzed every 20 minutes. She hadn't answered yet. Behind her, Jalen painted. Eni slept. The world spun. And inside Helena's chest, something shifted. Maybe not belief. Not yet. But something near it. She tapped the recorder on her wrist. This is Helena Rowe, envoy-class diplomat, reporting from List 3, I have made contact with the Sarah T visitor. Her name is Eni. She is not a threat. She is, hope. Raw. Fragile. And terrifyingly honest. She doesn't want war. She doesn't even want pity. She wants someone to see her people. To care. To stand beside them as they fall, or rise. A long pause. Then, I recommend diplomatic contact proceed immediately. And if we fail to respond with heart instead of suspicion, then we deserve whatever emptiness comes next. She sent the message. And turned back toward the dome. Toward the mural. Toward the girl who had dared to ask for love in a dying galaxy.